Okay, now the next really important song to me, personally, was one that was quite different, and it's called Nambu Ushioi Uta. Nambu is the name of a region that's up in Iwate Prefecture in northern Japan. One of the reasons it was actually trashed by the 2012 tsunami. I did a lot of research up there. Nambu, the Nambu ox herding song, that's what it means. And it's free rhythm. It used to be sung by guys who were leading herds of oxen from the mountains to the seacoast and back to sell things. They'd take crops and wood and stuff from the mountains, take them down to the seacoast, sell them. Then they'd take fish and seaweed and stuff and take them back up to the mountains. And the rice would be in there somewhere too. In the old days, they might be leading 10 or 12 oxen at once. And there were boars and bears in the woods and all, and they had to stay awake and be happy leading this herd. It might be one guy with 12, and there might be another person nearby with some more. And they had to scare the boars and bears away and keep themselves awake and keep the oxen happy, so they would sing. What are you going to do, you know? And they couldn't really sing, some Beatles song. Who knows what they sang day to day, but there were certain songs like this one that were linked to their experience. And so it says, although this is the countryside, inaka nare domo, although it's the countryside, the country, the district of Nambu, west and east, has mountains chock full of gold, because it was an important mining area as well. So they're praising their local place, even though they're singing this to themselves mainly, and the oxen. And then there'd be verses like, oh, you poor Ushio Tsurakaru, it must be tough being an ox, having to carry all this stuff. There's a lot of different verses. And I liked that song. And it was a free rhythm one, very different from that Kokuriko. And this is something we don't have much in Western folk. Not as much, where there's no beat. You're just walking along, so, there's no drummer with you, and your footsteps could give you rhythm, but you just kind of sing the song, And that's the other one that I learned, that I would always, if I got thrown into a TV program or on stage, that was one of my standard numbers. And my big, tough decision about it was whether to use the local dialect a bit. Because the northern dialect, they call it Zuzubeng, Zuzu dialect, because the she sound often becomes S and G becomes Z, etc. They have trouble with some of these E sounds. So the recording I learned it from was in local dialect. But by the time I was in Japan, I knew from my teacher, despite him being from that region, that most people are just singing it in standard Japanese pronunciation. Just like I shouldn't sing an Irish folk song in bad, fake Irish accent. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But again, I was always worried about me not being great singing, so I had to have a little humor in it, so I would throw in a couple syllables in the local dialect, I've just decided, even as we're talking here, I'm talking, that maybe I won't do that anymore. Because in England, at least, people don't know what I'm doing. They don't get it. They're thinking, why did that guy suddenly screw up his Japanese? The local Japanese here have no folk experience, except my students. So, but if I go back to Japan, I guess I might still do that, because the folk fans know this, And the other thing is, the folk songs, the problem is, as I decided to record this on our album and all, and when I sing it, I did it the way I learned it off that recording, by a local ox herd from probably the 1940s. By then he wasn't doing oxen anymore. They had good roads to take care of that stuff, but he had learned the song when he was young. And I learned his version. It starts, Inaka nare domo sa, etc. Starts inaka. Every professional I've heard doing it goes inaka nare. They hold out every syllable except the very first e. And I learned it from the recording. Inaka nare do. A couple of short syllables. Authentic, local. I'm an authentic scholar of authentic local stuff. I got to do it the real way, But all the stage pros don't do it that way. And then about, when was it? About 5 years ago, more like 9 years ago, I finally discovered that they had started a local contest up in Iwate for that one song. There's a lot of these single song contests. And long after I'd learned this, they decided they would have one for this song. And one of my ex-teachers, a Japanese scholar who had taught me at Tokyo University of the Arts, was the head of the judges for that contest when I went up there. And all the competitors were singing not the version I'd learned from a local guy off an old recording, but the stage version. And I'm sure locally you could have done it either way, but you know, it was just... and so this is one of the dilemmas you face in folk song in general, and it can happen in any culture. These days I can't sing the song as well as I used to. My voice is not quite there. I want to give it a bit of humor for people when we do it. So I introduce it on stage, etc., and point out that this is actually an Oxford song, but alas, today I've forgotten to bring my oxen, or when I do this in Denmark, I'll say they wouldn't let me bring them on the plane or whatever, you know. The little humor there, get them already, you know, enjoying the experience rather than thinking, oh, is this going to be another boring folk song, you know, we've already heard 3 of them. So I have to get a little liveliness going on. And then I teach the audience, I say, there's a chorus of the song, which there isn't. In fact, nobody ever does this, but I said, no oxen, so I need you to do it. I need you to, now, in America, cows go moo. In Japan, it's mo. So let's have some mo, and they all go mo, you know. And then it's, I forget if my group members here started this or it was my idea, but now when we do it on stage, several of the groups stand up and act like oxen, and they get their horns up on their head and they walk around poking me, you know, and supposedly following me. And sometimes if it's a group with children and stuff, I'll try to get a little chain going and I'll grab somebody's hand and get them following me around, and someone else grabs their hand, and you know. So we've made it a humorous song. It's not a perfect artistic experience of the traditional singing style, but at least that makes it more fun. Yeah. Now, the cowboy song, I had done it enough in Japan that, in fact, a scholar, well, you know, he was a folk festival arranger in northern Japan, sadly passed now, but who back in around 1980, I stayed at his house for a while up in Iwate in the north for a month or more, and attended the local festival where he brought together folk traditions from all over the north of Japan, not just folk songs, but kind of religious and festival music with drums and flutes and stuff and dance. And he, cleverly, without telling me, created what he called a minyo mujikaru, a folk song musical called The Village of the Cowherd, the Oxherd, and it was based on me. The story was, there is this kind of young, hippie-ish looking bearded foreigner with a backpack who's trying to learn this Oxford song, and he goes into this one village where there's an old man who's supposed to be a good singer of it and tries to get him to teach him. But he falls in love with the young man's daughter and vice versa. But after a while, the old man he falls in love with the old man's daughter, and then the old man is teaching him the song, but then he says, well, wait, I can't have my daughter marrying this weird foreigner, so they chased me out of the village. And this is a musical. They wrote some new songs to go in it too, but I had to sing that one too, you know, and I sang it really badly. I changed, this was my own clever improvisation, I changed inaka nare domo, meaning although it's the countryside, to onaka hare domo, which means although my belly is swelling, you know, and he's supposed to say, no, that's wrong. So anyhow, and then the whole thing ended with a flashback that we see the young girl like 50 years later, made up to look really old, and she's saying, I wonder whatever happened to that cute foreigner who I like so much. And then at the back of the stage is a gauze curtain, and through that, with the light suddenly coming on, I'm in full formal dress rather than my blue jeans and everything that I had in my backpack, full Japanese formal dress, and I sing the song again, beautifully this time. I do it right, you know. So that musical, anyhow, he wrote this. But I was famous enough for this song in Japan, however good I was or bad, it doesn't matter, that just before I came to England to join Gina in the middle of 1981, I got a phone call from Iwate Television, the local IBC, and they said, you know, we're about to have our annual horse festival, as you may know, Chagu Chagu Mako. Could you come up and kind of be a co-MC to that on live TV and sing the horse song that goes with this? And this was a week, 10 days or something before I was going to fly to Japan. No, to England for my first trip to join my beautiful, dear wife. And I said, well, I don't have time to learn that horse song. I've heard it, but I don't know it. I know the cow song. you know, from that region. But and they said, oh well, okay, you can sing the cow song while leading a horse. Oh, and they'd done so much for me up in Iwate, I had to go, you know. So I went up, and the night before this TV program, could have been 8 p.m. I finally meet with the 81-year-old man who is hosting it, and the photo from this TV program is on the back of my folk song book also. I have to flash that at you sometime. And the old man, he says, I heard that they told you could sing the cow song. Well, that's no good. This is a horse festival. I'll teach you the horse song. You're a good singer. You can learn it. And he starts singing it. And I'm just, what? And so it's like a 2-minute song, free rhythm, complicated melody. It's not like learning Mary Had a Little Lamb. You know, it was quite complicated. And he said, okay, now you sing it. Wait. So I whipped out my cassette machine, which fortunately I had, and I said, no, look, give me one more try through that, could you please? And he sang it again, and I taped it. I stayed up till 4 in the morning learning this song. Finally got a couple hours of sleep before having to be there by 7 for an 8 o'clock live morning broadcast. I then had to lead this horse while singing the song, walking towards the camera with a little girl up on the back of the horse, you know, and I'd written some of the lyrics on my hand just in case, you know, and walking along singing, "Aoyo, nakunai, you know, and it's one of the many experiences I've had in my musical life. I write them about in my memoirs document now. Potentially super embarrassing musical experience that fortunately I have no recording of. Now obviously it was on TV, and if I'd been desperate I could have asked them to somehow make a recording, but I didn't. I just have photos of that.
Maybe
experience.
somebody watching this will
can
send it to me.
Well, you know, the musical I mentioned, I did meet an old friend up in the north 2 years ago who in fact filmed that musical, and he's a filmmaker, folk stuff. And he says somewhere in my giant library, he said, of stuff, he's got tons and tons of rooms full of films. He says, I know I have a recording of that, and I've never seen it, you know. And we never got around to trying to hunt it down. I don't care, you know.